WP Dominators, and welcome. In this tutorial, we're going to be setting up a local dev environment for building WordPress themes. So let's get started. First thing, we're going to open up our browser, and if you followed along with past lessons, you will already have a knowledge of some of the tools that I recommend for WordPress theme development. And you also would have gone through the tutorial on setting up a local install of WordPress using MAMP Pro. And you will already have a local site set up. This is my local site. I have it set up at themetest.dev, and as you'll notice, we have the default 2015 theme enabled for our local WordPress website. And what we're going to do first is log into the back end of our website. So we type in our local domain and add -wp-admin to the end of it. Hit enter, and it's going to direct us to the login screen where we're going to input our username and password, and that's going to take us to our WordPress admin, the back end, and the area where we manage everything with our WordPress website. Now, the very first thing we're going to do is go to the plugins area, and as we hover over plugins, we see a little flyout menu. We're going to select Add New. We're going to go over to the right in the search box. We're going to type in Developer, and it should be the first plugin that comes up. And it is. We're going to want to make sure that it's by automatic. That is the folks that are behind WordPress, and they tend to put out some really good stuff. So if we click on Install Now, it's going to install the developer plugin for us. And once it's installed, we can activate it. And right upon activation, it's going to bring us through a wizard that helps us set up our theme development environment or plugin environment. But for this tutorial and this particular setup, we're going to be working on themes. So we're going to select theme for a self-hosted WordPress installation. We click Save Changes, and the developer plugin is going to go through a number of tasks that sets up our environment for us, and then it's going to bring us to a screen that recommends some other plugins that we should be using for developing WordPress themes. And we're going to want to install all of these. Okay, if you get to the end, just continue to scroll down because there's a few extra plugins on the bottom. And once we have an indication that all these plugins are installed, we can go ahead and click on the Get Developing button. And one thing we'll notice, if we refresh this page, all of those new plugins are activated. We're going to notice that everything is in a pretty funky language. This is actually Pig Latin, which is brought on by the Pig Latin plugin being activated. And what this does is it helps us to develop our themes for other languages. Okay, so it gives us another language to work in and turns all of our text into Pig Latin. I'm going to go ahead and deactivate this plugin because we're not going to be necessarily developing for another language right out of the gates. We're going to cover some more beginner topics before we dive into languages. So let's go ahead and deactivate that and get everything back to normal English. Okay, so with all those plugins activated, the next thing that we want to do is we want to download some dummy content. And WordPress actually has some dummy content for us. So we're going to head over to the WordPress Codex. I'm actually just going to Google WordPress dummy content. That'll probably bring us right to where we need to be. And what we're looking for here is the theme unit test page on the WordPress Codex. Okay, and you'll notice that on the Codex page for theme unit tests, WordPress actually gives us some steps for setting up our theme test environment. And the very first thing they recommend is downloading test data. In order to do that, we're going to right click, or if you're on a Mac like I am, you're going to control click on the link for the test data. If we just simply click the link, it's an XML file, so all it's going to do is give us the raw XML, which to us is just a bunch of gobbledygook. Okay, so make sure you do right click on it. Whoops, and I'm closing the page here. Okay, once I get the page back, I'll right click on the link for the dummy content. And I'm going to say save linked file as. It may show up as just save file as because I've actually already saved the file before. Okay, and theme unit test data.xml is fine. I'm going to save it in my downloads folder just so I'm not beating up on my desktop. No, I don't want to append txt because it's an XML file. Okay, I'm going to replace the one that I already saved. And I have that file in my downloads folder now. So if I go back into my WordPress install, to get that XML file into our WordPress database, we're going to go to the Tools menu, and on the little flyout, we're going to go down to Import. Okay, there's a number of different options here, but what we're looking to do is import a WordPress file. So we click WordPress. Okay, it brings up a little wizard for the WordPress importer. We actually have to install that. It doesn't come with an install of WordPress. Okay, we're going to activate that and run it. Okay, next step, we got to find that file that we just added to download. So we're going to go to Choose File. Okay, we're going to select our Downloads folder. We can see the theme unit test data.xml file that we saved with all that gobbledygook that we saw when we actually opened the page in the browser. If we click Choose, okay, then we're going to click Upload File and Import. It's going to take that XML file and it's going to run us through a wizard to get everything in there. Okay. Okay, we see that we have a default user here, Theme Demos, and Chip Bennett and Lance. I'm just going to go ahead and select myself as all of these users. That'll make more sense to me than someone else's name. So what that's going to do is it's going to run through the file and it's going to change all the names of the authors to my name. Okay, I'm going to click Download and Import File Attachments because when we're building a theme, we're also working with file attachments. So we want to make sure that those look okay as well. Okay, we click Submit and it's going to import that entire XML file for us. And what that's going to do is it's going to add a bunch of content to our WordPress database. So we're going to have posts already. We're going to have media files. Okay, we're going to probably have a video in there. We're going to have some images. We're going to have some nested comments so we can style comments. We're going to have some posts, so we make sure that if we have a category page of posts, that looks okay. And we're also going to make sure that a page with a single post is going to be styled okay. So we're going to have all of those things like in this test data. And once that has finished downloading, we are going to download Foundation 5 gems, which is a Ruby term. Don't let that scare you off because we are going to go through it step by step. And basically what that's going to do is download things on our computer that makes it mindlessly simple to start using new installs of the Foundation 5 front-end framework. And we can actually walk through that while this is downloading. So why don't we head on over to foundation.zurb.com. That's Z-U-R-B. Okay, and that'll bring us to the Foundation page. If we hit the Download Foundation 5 button, it's going to give us a number of different options for downloading Foundation. We're going to be using the SAS option. Okay, so we're going to click the Install via SCSS button. When we set up a new project with Foundation in the future, it's going to make it mindlessly simple. All we'll have to do is open our CLI. If you're on a Mac, you'll use Terminal. If you're on Windows, I think you use Putty or something else. And we're going to walk through all of that. but all we'll have to do is type in foundation, new, and then type in the name of the theme that we're going to build, and it's going to set up a theme directory for us with all the foundation files that we need already in it. So it's going to save us probably like 100 hours just by dumping everything right where we need it. Okay, and you'll notice that Foundation 5 is going to come with a number of different dependencies. They want to make sure that we already have Git installed, Node.js, and Ruby 1.9 or above. If we want to check to see if those things are on our computer, we can open up a new terminal window. Okay, if you're using Windows, you're going to use PuTTY or some other command line interface. And for Git, all I got to do is type in git --version. Okay, and it's going to tell me that I have Git version 1.9.5. Okay. For Node, if I type in node --version, it's telling me that I have version 0.10.32. And for Ruby, I can do the same thing, Ruby --version. And it's going to tell me I have Ruby 2.0, which is higher than the Ruby 1.9, so I'm in pretty good shape there. Okay, so with all those things in place, we're going to install Foundation via our command line interface, just going step by step. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to type in is this npm install -g bower grunt -cli. Okay, and once I hit enter, that command is going to download a number of things for me. It looks like I get a bunch of errors. If you get errors, try the same command again, but add sudo before it. That's going to run it as an admin user, which a lot of times if we're logged into our Mac user account, it's not going to run it as an admin user. All right, so let's try that again. Sudo npm install -g bower grunt -cli. Okay, it should ask us for our password because we're running as a sudo, so it wants to make sure that we're allowed to do that. Well, apparently it's not going to ask for my password. It's just going to start downloading some stuff. Okay, and once that finishes, we can see all the wonderful stuff that we got here. Then we go on to the next command, which is gem install foundation. And I'm just going to go ahead and use sudo. That's going to allow us to run all of these commands. So I'm going to type in sudo gem install foundation. Okay, then that's going to download a bunch of stuff, and we can see that there was one gem installed, which is our foundation gem. Okay, we now have our development environment set up for building WordPress themes. At this point, you should have your install of WordPress. You should have your dummy content in your WordPress install. You should also have the developer plugin along with all of the recommended plugins. And lastly, you should have the foundation gem downloaded on your computer. With all that in place, we can move on to other tutorials and start building WordPress themes. So I will see you in the next tutorial.